This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
We all ought to fear what Donald Trump may concede to China.
They could be helpful and they ought to want to be helpful.
There's too many people willing to make excuses for China.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Communist confab. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. It'll be the leader of the free world and the head of the world's largest communist state meeting in Beijing. President Trump arriving in the Chinese capital today for talks with President Xi Jinping. A team of uniformed female greeters lining the red carpet as Trump filed past, waving flags, chanting welcome. However, Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer isn't welcoming Trump's China visit.
We all ought to fear what Donald Trump may concede to China just so he can claim a headline. He's opening the door, saying, China, you come here. Use all American innovation and technology and everything else, and then send it back to China and let China take the lead over America.
Trump said before he left he won't seek China's help in bringing the U.S.-Iran war to a close, but Kansas Republican Senator Jerry Moran tells Fox News,
I hope they are willing to use whatever influence they have to help bring a deal about. But the president's right, we don't need China, but they could be helpful and they ought to want to be helpful.
Beyond Iran, trade talks are expected to be high on Trump's China agenda. China was also on the agenda in the U.S. Senate today, with testimony from CIA officer James Erdman III before the Senate's Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee on his allegations of a concerted federal cover-up by his agency and others on the COVID-19 pandemic originating from a Chinese bioweapons lab in Wuhan.
I'm concerned that there's too many people willing to make excuses for China in this organization for the wrong reasons.
Here's some of what senators had to say today.
Government owes its people the evidence.
This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. And then people wonder, gee, why are the American people not trusting elected officials? I wonder, why are they? I'll tell you why, because we are repeatedly lied to.
Who is running the deep state?
Those were all Republican senators because all Democrats on the committee opted to not attend today's session. Alex Murdaugh's murder convictions overturned by South Carolina's Supreme Court. A 5-0 vote, the state Supreme Court granted Murdaugh a new trial today. The justices say a county clerk improperly influenced the jury in Murdaugh's original high-profile trial in which he was convicted in the killings of his wife and son in March 2023. Prosecutors say they will proceed with a retrial. Murdaugh remains in prison on convictions on other charges. Health officials in 16 states now reporting potential hantavirus exposures linked to a Dutch cruise ship where a deadly outbreak occurred. NBC's Maggie Vespa reports there are a total of 11 hantavirus cases linked to that ship, 9 of them now confirmed.
There have been 3 deaths worldwide and 11 reported cases. And this morning, officials saying one of those, a French woman hospitalized in Paris, is critically ill with a severe form of the disease, now being treated with an artificial lung.
More than a dozen Americans evacuated from the MV Hondius are under observation at the National Quarantine Unit at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. 2 others are in Atlanta. One of those patients, who had been showing minor symptoms, has now tested negative for hantavirus. Ukraine's President Zelensky says Russia launched more than 800 drones in a large-scale assault on Ukraine just days after a short ceasefire expired. He says the timing was intentional, aimed at drawing attention during President Trump's visit to China. Analysts say the attack may signal a shift in Russian tactics towards sustained mass drone attacks to pressure Ukraine's air defenses. Back in our country, just a year on the job, and the FDA commissioner is stepping down.
Marty McCary is resigning as head of the Food and Drug Administration. He was an outspoken opponent of COVID measures during the pandemic, but in recent weeks, health industry executives, abortion opponents, and others complained about him. Most recently, vaping lobbyists said he was blocking approval of fruit-flavored e-cigarettes, flavors which sometimes appeal to children. When asked about his resignation, President Trump praised McCary and said, quote, he's a terrific guy and that he's going to go on, he's going to do well. Linda Kenyon, the White House.
And some sky-high high-tech. Google and SpaceX are reportedly talking about putting data centers in space. The Wall Street Journal says the orbiting facilities are not a done deal yet, or if they would be cost-effective when launch costs are factored in. Word of the possible partnership comes as SpaceX is preparing for its IPO later this year. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, we'll have a recap for you of our top regional stories and highlights from today's edition of Real Answers. Checking the stories making news where you live. Across New York and Pennsylvania, a Lebanon County man has been charged after naming 20 Democratic Pennsylvania lawmakers on a hit list. Family Life's Sarah Harnish explains.
On May 1st, police were notified of threats made online against nearly 24 lawmakers, including Speaker of the House Joanna McClinton and Senator Sharif Street. The hit list and threats of a shooting were posted on X with a picture of a firearm and mention of a, quote, Memorial Day operation. State police arrested Adam Berryhill and charged him with terroristic threats. He's being held in jail on $250,000 bail. Sarah Harnish, Family Life News.
Thank you, Sarah. Not as many kids are going to college in Pennsylvania. It's because PA is facing what experts call a demographic cliff.
60 counties are showing declines in population, and 7 are showing increases.
Rick Esch is president of the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford. He tells Erie News Now colleges aren't the only ones feeling the pinch. High schools are losing students, too.
We don't have to look too far. If we look at our school districts, whether it's in Erie or the IU9, which is the intermediate unit in our area, we've seen that over years of probably over the last 10 years. The census in the school districts are declining.
Gannon University lost about 500 students in 3 years. Penn West Edinburgh lost 1,400 students between 2022 and 2025. Now, relief could be coming soon for New York schools struggling to meet the state's electric bus mandate. Democratic Senator Christopher Ryan says his bill to slow the mandate is likely to be included in the long-delayed state budget.
I have a broad range of bipartisan support, so we're working on it together. It's a bipartisan effort. It's a bipartisan bill. It's kind of a common sense bill. Let's just take a pause.
Under current law, districts must begin purchasing zero-emission school buses next year. Ryan's bill delays that by 5 years. State Senator Jeremy Cooney.
We want to make sure that we are pushing and moving towards full electrification, but we don't want to tie the hands of our school districts who are trying to do the right thing. And they've reached out to my office a number of times over the past year saying, we want to electrify our vehicles. We just can't purchase the buses, or we just can't get power to our chargers. Help us meet this goal. So we're going to try to do that.
Several school districts have applied for 2-year waivers that exempt them from the electric school bus mandate. The shutdown of Spirit Airlines is taking a toll on Arnold Palmer Regional Airport. Spirit ended its operations earlier this month and had been Arnold Palmer's only commercial carrier. Airport Authority Director Mo Haas says that 25 workers have been laid off from their jobs at the airport and that TSA is ending service there over the next 90 days. Well, ooh la la, Steelers fans. The Pittsburgh Steelers will play an international game this season. They'll be playing in Paris against the New Orleans Saints. It's part of the NFL's International Series. That game scheduled for Week 7 on October 25th. The Steelers-Saints game in Paris will mark the NFL's expansion of its international footprint into France. First time they've played a game there in league history. Up next, highlights from today's edition of Real Answers. The head of Microsoft's AI division threw a scare into a lot of workers when he predicted that most white-collar work will be fully automated by AI within the next 12 to 18 months, marking a major shift in the workforce. Scary stuff for a lot of workers. I spoke about it with licensed mental health counselor Christopher Anderson. Kind of scary if you're sitting there at your desk, at your computer job, and say, AI's, it's everywhere. It's just about every workplace to some degree. It's there already.
It really is. And the pace at which we're seeing this develop, I mean, really 2 years ago, most people hadn't even heard of AI at that point. So it is something that we all need to be aware of, but we do not, and we should not, approach this with excessive fear. Obviously, with that, we are commanded in the Bible not to worry. We are commanded to pray about things and lift things up to the Lord. There's been things in the past that we've needed to do the same thing. So we should approach this no differently from that perspective.
College kids who are graduating this month are entering a workplace that was so much different when they were freshmen. When they're coming out of college, they're seeing a whole different landscape. Graduates in computer science, which normally was a name-your-ticket job, job. Not so much anymore.
Not so much anymore. And the reality of this is that even, say, software developers or website designers or whatever, they're really feeling the pinch of this because of how quickly AI is doing their jobs already. And the result of that is we're going to start to see people that are going to be starting to feel the heat very soon. I don't know if I would agree that in 12 to 18 months that white collar jobs are going to disappear. I would say a percentage will, but completely, I don't think so.
It probably would be safe to say that most of those jobs are going to be impacted significantly by AI.
Definitely impacted. And really, the fact that we're discussing this today is a good opportunity to talk about what are those things that we can do to better prepare ourselves, not just understanding what AI is and also being aware of where it is at this point, what jobs are going to be impacted, but also what can we do right now other than informing ourselves. And I've got a few practical hints.
Let's dive in. I was reading an article in Forbes, which is a pretty good source, and they had a few thoughts of their own on what you can do. And one of them is become an AI expert in your office. Don't fight it, embrace it.
And that's right. I use AI not necessarily in my own office to work with my clients, but if I have to make tweaks to a form or make sure that my wording is accurate, or if I'm in compliance with New York state law, it is a very useful tool. But understanding in your own individual office place, where is it right now with respect to AI integration and what direction is it heading? And understanding how can you make yourself of value and an asset to your workplace when it comes to this particular issue. Now, that's great advice for anything. People should be in the mindset, if you are working in a job that you have an employment structure with supervisors and ultimate, CEOs or whatever, what can you do to better improve your performance, not only in your specific role, but also the bigger picture to make yourself an asset more valuable to the organization itself. And that might require thinking outside the box and taking some extra steps here and there. And I'm not saying adding on so much to your own plate that isn't part of your job description, but finding out again, what are ways that you can work to encourage your coworkers or help out with maybe some administrative tasks that shows that you're taking initiative, that shows that you are valuing their bottom line. Are you working hard to help your organization achieve its goals, showing that you've got value as an individual and as a worker? Ultimately, make it hard for them to want to get rid of you. That's done by asking yourself, who is an asset to this company and how can I become that person?
As powerful a tool as AI is, the one thing that it can never truly be is something that has a human touch. That's one way that you can differentiate. I can't see that being replaced no matter how fancy your computer is.
You really just encapsulated actually the whole approach to this, and that is to understand that interpersonal connection and relationship with people is something that God wired you for. You need that. And that's one of the significant issues that I see showing up in my office over and over again, is that people are increasingly disconnected. And so clearly this is a situation with AI that could accelerate that in the wrong direction. So if you're in a workplace that requires personal interaction, that is a great way to improve your value to your employers. How are you reaching out to clients, to customers, to, whatever word you use to describe the people you interact with? We need to be looking for ways of connecting people. And ministries have a huge role in this right now because they are the ones that ultimately are tending to that God-given need that we all have, and that is to connect people. Here in my office, that's always, hands down, one of the first things I assess, regardless of what the actual issue is that brings people to my office, is how connected are you? And are you in a community of folks that's supportive to keep you grounded in reality and keep you grounded in the fact that that's how God wants us to operate in our communities, is being connected to it.
Highlights from today's edition of Real Answers, and there was more of it. You can hear the entire feature and all of our Family Life original news features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
What if generosity became so normal that people just expected it from you? Hi, I'm Rob West with another Faith and Finance Minute. In John 12 and 13, we learn that Judas kept the money bag for Jesus and the disciples. Even as a traveling ministry, they had a system, not just to manage resources, but to give to the poor. In fact, when Judas left the table at the Last Supper, the disciples assumed he was going to give something away. Why? Because generosity was their rhythm. It wasn't spontaneous. It was structured. It wasn't occasional. It was expected. That's a powerful picture for us. Is our giving something we get around to, or is it so consistent that it becomes part of our identity? Because when generosity becomes a habit, it doesn't just change others, it shapes us. Connect with a certified Kingdom advisor who's been trained to deliver financial advice that aligns with your Christian values by visiting our website, faithfi.com.
And finally at 5, a story about hackers. No, not computer crooks. That kind of hacker, because today is Cough Drop Day. No one seems to know exactly why either, but those little medicinal candies have an interesting history, and much of it centers around New York and Pennsylvania. They've been around since ancient Egyptians used a combo of honey, herbs, spices, and citrus to soothe sore throats. By the 19th century, many cough drops, though, contained morphine, formaldehyde, even heroin. But in the mid-1800s, James Smith of Poughkeepsie, New York, bought a safer recipe off of a street vendor and turned it into the Smith Brothers cough drop brand. In 1879, 19-year-old candy maker William Loudon of Reading, PA, began selling a popular menthol-based cough drop. In 1986, Loudon was acquired by another Pennsylvania giant, Hershey. By the way, cough drops are sometimes called lozenges. That's from the French word losange, meaning rhombus, because early cough drops were shaped like diamonds, a hacker's best friend. And that's the world we live in for Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.